Don't stop.
Hi, thanks so much for joining me in the Everything and Anything and a Bit Gay podcast. I am Zach Randalls-Friedman, and I am here to bring you a really great episode today. I met with a woman named Liz, interviewed her, or had a conversation. I don't even want to say I interview people. I want to just say I have conversations with people, because whenever I end the filming that I'm doing with a person, a lot of times I just forgot that I was even talking with them on a podcast. And Liz is one of those people that made me feel that way. And when that happens, that really makes me feel like, oh, that was a good podcast that I'm going to be putting out. Because Liz made me think about things. And every time I have somebody on my show like Liz, where they're talking about reincarnation or past life experiences, or just what happens when you die, and just kind of all that, it reinforces my new belief in what I think happens when we die. And I have to say, it just, I'm at an age now where my friend's parents and my parent, I have my mother still. My father died in 2008. He had cancer. And this show has been healing for me in a lot of ways because of how I think about death now. Because before, in 2008, before I even had a thought of doing a podcast, I basically just thought you died, you went in the ground, you got cremated, whatever. And that's what I thought happened. So my dad was cremated, and I'm like, okay, that's it. I said goodbye to him when he died, and I'll never see him again or anything. And I mean, I have to say there were things that happened after he died that made me really know that there was more than him just dying, because he definitely showed signs of being there in so many ways. I could do a whole episode about things that my father did after he passed away, where he made sure to know that he was still around. I mean, there's things that there's no way it could have been anything else but my father. It's 100% proof, and I know it was him. That many coincidences do not happen for somebody to come back and say, I'm still here. And again, I could do a whole episode. But I recently, my husband lost his mother, my mother-in-law, who was like my mother. I loved her so much. And she has now showed me signs of letting me know that she's here. And this is how. This is a quarter that is on my desk, and I don't ever have cash or change. I definitely don't have change ever. And ever since she's died, there are quarters everywhere. And I know that people say, oh, this happens, or people think that they pick up dimes or nickels or pennies or quarters or whatever, and it's just a coincidence. These are not on the street. These are in my house. This is on my desk. I come up to my desk, which is on the top floor of my house, and where my podcast studio is. And so it isn't like I just had change in my pocket and it fell out of my desk. I'm walking up the stairs to come up the stairs, and there's a quarter on the stairs. I walk outside in the driveway, there's a quarter in the driveway. I'm walking down the street to go to CVS or whatever, I see a quarter right before I walk in CVS. On the kitchen counter downstairs, on the island, there's a quarter sitting there. In my bedroom floor, in the middle of the rug, there's a quarter sitting there. Before Irene passed away, there were no quarters anywhere. I mean, this just didn't happen. And I would have noticed it, because where are these quarters coming from? I don't ever have cash, let alone change on me. So it's impossible. It's so crazy. My point is that whenever somebody dies now, it's very tough still, because you know that they're gone and you're not going to be able to spend time with them in this life anymore. But it gives me a sense of peace knowing that once I die, I will be with them again. And I'm not talking about heaven, because I don't believe in any of the heaven, hell bullshit at all. I just don't believe it. I think it's all made up stuff. I think hell was made up because people are like, if you do bad things, then you're going to go to hell. So it was trying to control the population and stuff. So I believe in zero of that. I believe that you go and I think that we're all energy or a spirit or and our soul goes and we are all together after we die. And if you listen to my other podcast interviews, you'll hear people talking about that. I have a guy coming on named Joseph that's going to talk about near-death experiences, and he's studied these and talking to many hundreds, if not thousands of people who have died, and they talk about the exact same thing happened to them. They had the same story. They went to the same place, and I just think it's so fascinating. But again, I'm at that time in my life, whenever you are in your 20s and all your friends get engaged at the same time, and then all your friends get married in their later 20s at the same time, then all your friends start having kids at the same time, and then all your friends start getting divorced at the same time, and then they get remarried. It's like a whole cycle that you go through your life. And right now I'm in that cycle where our parents are starting to get older, and we're worried about them, and they're dying. So I don't know if I have any friends now. Well, I guess I do have a few friends that do. But most of my friends have lost at least one parent. Probably not a lot. 65% of my friends have lost at least one parent at this point in their life who are my age. And it's just that time. Nobody has their grandparents anymore, which is sad. Like my grandparents would be in their hundreds at this point if they were still alive. So my guest today, Liz, is really going to kind of talk about that. We have a really amazing conversation just about, what happens whenever you die and just, the changes that happen, how you grieve death. And I really enjoyed the conversation. She's got a unique perspective about it. And listen to the interview and leave a comment in this video that you're watching or the podcast that you're listening to, and let me know what you think about it. And let me know where you are in the phase of your life. Are you in that, we're all getting married and me and all my friends are getting married now? Or are you in that, we're all getting divorced now, or we're all having kids? And just life is just like one big cycle for everybody. Everybody goes through the same cycle of life. So it's just kind of crazy. Enjoy my episode with Liz. Look forward to your comments. Thanks. Hi, thanks so much for joining me on the Everything and Anything in a Bit Gay podcast. Today, I have a brand new guest who has such a fascinating background. And she doesn't know this yet because we haven't talked yet, but we're so aligned on so many things that she talks about. So welcome to the show, Liz.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I am excited to hear how we're aligned. I did not know that yet.
Yes, you did not, because I found you online and I looked at your background, and there's all these things that you kind of believe in or just kind of how you think. And maybe you could kind of just give a little bit of a background to the people listening about kind of who you are and what your beliefs are. And then I would love to kind of get into the story about how things changed for you over time.
Yeah, definitely. Happy to share it. I actually don't use the word belief because I think that's a word that kind of means there isn't evidence for something. So I will say I'm like a skeptical atheist who thinks there's valid evidence of an afterlife and what I would also call non-physical consciousness, meaning there's all these psi abilities and like the psychic things, and basically that our consciousness operates more like the cloud and is downloaded by a brain rather than created by a brain, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I'm going to ask the question straight up. What do you think happens when we die?
Oof. I mean, it seems like the evidence, the mechanism, I don't think any of us know yet how mechanistically it works. I can get into some theories on that I have, but essentially it's almost like each life is kind of like the way like a day becomes part of our life, and through time it kind of uploads into who we are as a person. I think it's sort of similar where our consciousness uploads sort of into this cloud that's all of our multiple lives, our personalities, our experiences, probably lives and experiences in other dimensions and non-physical states of consciousness as well. And it all becomes part of our personality, just like us at 2, us at 17, eventually, depending how long we live, us at 50, 60, like all becomes part of who we are until the day we pass. And that is like bits and parts of this life. And I think our personality is made up of lots of lives, which are just like different experiences.
And so you believe in reincarnation?
I think there's really valid evidence of it, which I can get into. It's basically based on the research of doctors Ian Stevenson and Jim Tucker, and then now people who are taking over their research, but they're kind of the main ones.
Yeah.
Who through the Division of Perceptual Studies at University of Virginia that show just like unbelievable research on this. It's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you that I started this podcast over 2 years ago, and I just thought, oh, when you die, and that's it. Like, I didn't believe in any of the thing else. But I have had so many people on my show I've had mediums and psychics, and I've taken mediumship classes myself, and just other conversations about near-death experiences and all this other stuff. So it's kind of, I am, I do believe that there is reincarnation now. And I think it's, amazing that, this is, I want to know so much more about it though. Like, I'm so curious, and I'm like, I kind of like want to just grab content and research and just read all about it, to try to learn as much as I can. So.
Oh my God. And there's so much. It's like, I feel like I have been doing that, and it's still, you only get a portion of it. I think it's just the most remarkable scientific evidence of anything that the average person has access to. I mean, someone who's like a string theorist or particle physicist who's there watching like subatomic particles behave in ways that make no sense, have access to something the average person doesn't. But for the rest of us, I think this is the most remarkable scientific anything we have access to.
And I think a lot of people now are starting to open their eyes and be more accepting about it, where, and I don't know if it's because of the internet and social media, and there's just more communication around the world. But, like Dolores Cannon, if you know who she is, I'm sure you do. Whenever she started kind of releasing things about her past life hypnotism and stuff that she did, I think people really jumped on that. And they're just, I mean, I think we could spend years and years and years studying and reading and stuff and still not even put a dent in all the research that's out there. So
I agree. And there's so much throughout history that we don't even know much about. Like, if you look at the Society for Cyclical Research, I believe they were started in like the mid 1800s. And they were the first group, as far as I know, that scientifically started researching all of this. And it's just, there's so much. And there's probably stuff way before then of just anecdotal evidence before people were as scientific in their approach to this. So.
And we'll be right back. Okay, now back to the show. I want to ask you something about what happened after your dad passed away that made you kind of question what happens after death.
Yeah, well, it really started with a desperation. And I mean, my very first initial thought, and if anyone's been through like this level of grief, I'm so sorry. But one thing you'll also notice overall, at least it did with me, is like your brain just starts going to really weird places. And this sort of desperation of like, what can I do? What can I do? And when we were told he was moving to hospice, my very first thought was, is there some way to turn back time? Like, it wasn't like this logical, practical, I'm going to go tomorrow and go do it. But it was kind of where my mind went. And I thought how that's covered in science fiction, and the majority of science fiction, or a large portion of it, seems to come true. I mean, even us talking here on Riverside is a type of very advanced science fiction if you were to watch like a 1950s, I guess, science fiction film. So I was like, is time travel possible? And this sort of desperation, I Googled that, and it is. It's not practical. It would involve, long story short, building a spaceship with certain, having it travel close to the speed of light. I mean, all these things that we can't just easily do, and all these different ways of doing it. But it showed that time is not just this linear, trapped way that we experience. So then I was like, well, if just the most factual, immutable, unchangeable thing is different than how we experience, what else could there be? And that was my next thought. I was like, okay, if you think of the concept of our consciousness, and it's created by a brain, which is what I thought at the time, without doubt. I was like, and you think of the concept of eternity and eternal big bangs, big crunches, evolutions of species like humans and other I'm sure in 100 trillion years there'll be other species we can't even imagine that are also complex and intelligent. And I was like, there's just no way. It actually seems mathematically impossible that another set of brain neurons wouldn't create someone else that got to be like reincarnation, but without any of the spiritual components, not another Liz exactly me. And I was like, okay, well, I would like to see my dad again. But when all I've ever thought for at least most of my life is that when you die, that's it. I was like, this is a lot better than just never being conscious again. And that was kind of where everything changed, because I thought, well, if that's the case, and that seems to make the most sense, is there any chance, anyhow, by some mechanism we cannot understand, where some memories have carried over? And I Googled that, and that's where I found Dr. Jim Tucker, Dr. Ian Stevenson, professors of psychiatry at the University of Virginia, child psychiatrists. Ian Stevenson had passed away a while ago, but he was the initial researcher, and Dr. Jim Tucker had taken over his research. And they study cases of kids with past life memories from like a very logical, data-based way, and they were getting positive results. And I was just like, that was the game changer. Plus, because they're part of this group at the University of Virginia, the Division of Perceptual Studies, I was like, if once you find them, you find all the other researchers. And these are like logical, non-spiritual, non-woo, science-based researchers. And I just once you find them, it's just life-changing. I mean, it wasn't like an overnight thing, but it was like reading their work for like weeks, huddled in bed, just absolutely starting to see things were, at least the possibility of things being different than I had thought, and a lot better, of course.
I love seeing these videos of the kids that have memories of a past life. I could watch them all day long. And,
my God.
And, this one, I don't know if it was a documentary or kind of a YouTube short documentary about a kid that had these memories of living in another country. The parents ended up taking this kid to where he said he lived. He walked in to this store or house, I don't remember what it was, and he knew the woman's name.
Yeah, you see so much of that. It's crazy.
Yes. And I feel like nobody wants to not to pick on religious people, because you can be whatever you want to be, but they try to pretend it doesn't exist, and it's like it's there. You have the proof that this kid, there's no way this kid that's from Michigan and goes to, I don't know, Italy or wherever he was, knew this person's name as soon as he walked in. He's never seen before. It's impossible.
Impossible. And there is so much of that when you start researching. There's, just piles of these stories. And they have these protocols where the kids have to be under 5, at least with the Division of Perceptual Studies researchers, because they can't prove kids didn't just get the memories from somewhere. They have to, then they just do all these testings. And just one of the ones that absolutely convinced Dr. Jim Tucker that something was going on is this boy, the James Leininger case, it's the most famous one, but he knew just so many things. He was having memories as a World War II fighter pilot, and he knew stuff about planes that experts.
I've seen that one. I know what you're talking about.
Yes. No one in his family was pilots. And that was just one part of this huge thing. He even ends up meeting people from his Air Force troop who are now elderly men, and they were sharing memories. He'd given accurate names of people. He'd had these dolls with little army dolls with certain hair colors, and he'd given them names, and they corresponded with men who'd been in his troop with that hair color. Just crazy things like that. And it was just 100 points. And there's other cases that good. Not that many that good, but there are others. And there's just, when you start putting it together, there's no other way.
Yeah.
And then you start to see ordinary people, on blogs I'd started to read, where everyone would say the same things. Kids would say, when I was big, and suddenly these people are my 2-year-old talking about when I was big. What the fuck? Yeah. Am I allowed to swear on this? Sorry.
You can say whatever you want. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So people be like, what the fuck? My kid's saying when I was big, and there's just so much consistency too, which is pretty amazing.
Have you ever done a past life regression hypnotism?
I have. I did it with my friend Renee Buck, who does them, and she's also a psychic medium. And it was really interesting. I mean, there isn't anything I can say that happened in it that I'm like, this proves it's real. But what I found that was interesting that stood out to me was when I got into the hypnosis, the memories felt as real as like my memories from when I was 2. And it was like I wanted to make certain things happen differently than they were, but it was like a genuine memory. And it was like, no, it didn't go this way. And if I was writing it as a fiction story, I would have had it go differently. So I thought that was super interesting. Oh, and then we did this like talk to your guides thing. And I felt like something like as if someone put their finger or like blew like this, like audio's only listening. I'm like blowing across my hand. I felt someone do that twice across my face. And Renee's my friend, so I know she's very genuine and very honest. And then like we checked all the possible normal ways that could have happened, and there were none. Like no windows were open, no ceiling fans on. It was really weird.
Yeah, I did one too.
Yeah.
This and 2 lies they brought me back to. One was I was a farmer in like the 1930s or 40s, like in Kansas. Not at all what I thought I was going to be. Had a wife, had 2 kids, seen the house that I lived in, knew how I died. One of my sons is actually who my husband is today in this.
No way. Oh,
and what's weird about it is that the same thing happened with me. It's like, oh, now it's almost like I know, it's like memories have come now. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just like a memory, like you said when you were 2, like, oh yeah, now I remember that I was 2. And that's how I'm feeling now about that. Like now there's other things. I don't remember the whole life and the whole thing, but there's like things that happen. And then the other life that I had was I didn't see what I looked like, but I don't think I was on the planet Earth because the water was pink and it was just like a different, So this woman, I need to let Myra know how many times I mentioned her in my episodes because she's just so incredible. She has a whole podcast and a whole series and she does workshops and stuff and she's quite amazing. So
what's her name?
Myra Rath, Rath.
Okay. You have to send me her. Maybe
I'll send you her. I'll send you her her podcast and some of her videos too because she shows people being hypnotized and what they're talking about and it's quite fascinating. So what do you tell me what you think about the whole medium psychic things? That you have a friend and you do that? Do you believe that they're actually speaking to people on the other side?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's evidence. I'm almost definitely convinced. I would say of the portion that I know, and I'll talk a little about the research I've done on it and the people I know, the ones that I've gotten to know, 100%, they're doing something. Like the only thing that I still have to like hold as a possibility, it makes me a little nervous. I know these people are not cheating, and I know they're not doing like cold readings, even unintentionally, where they are just getting general information. My only concern is, and I don't think this is the most likely, but it's possible physics will find some explanation for this stuff that we have no understanding of now. And the answer is not survival of consciousness. So I'm like, I have to hold possibility for that. But as of now, I mean, first of all, before I even considered going to a medium, I had read about, do you know the Windbridge Institute?
I know the Oak Bridge Institute. Is that... I don't know Windbridge.
No. Oh, you're going to love them if you're into this. Dr. Julie Beischel and Mark Bacuzzi, they have conducted up to quintuple blinded studies on psychic mediums, assuring that with all these blindings and protocols, assuring they're getting accurate information and specific information. Because, like, I'm not a medium. I could give you an accurate reading right now. I could say, I bet you have like over 4 great-grandparents on the other side. There you go. I'm accurate, And so, but they give very specific, like you have a grandfather with the name so-and-so. And so they did these studies. And then I was like, no way. I'd read every single one. She wrote them in different ways, both in like readable books and then actual like science peer-reviewed studies. And a lot of peer-reviewed. So I read all of those and I was like, no way. And then started to went and got a medium reading, like all these protocols, hid my identity. She knew so much. So I started getting more readings. Some were terrible, some were wonderful.
Yeah, same.
And then, And then I started now volunteering for a place called the Forever Family Foundation. I mean, I volunteered a long time ago, but I'm still volunteering. And sadly lost their daughter, Bailey, who would be a little bit older than me now today. And they do like science-based protocols certifying psychic mediums. So I've become like good friends with piles of them, have had so many readings at this point, and it's just, yeah, I'm so convinced. And you have too. I'd love to hear about that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was interested in it. I took a class for like a year and a half with this guy named Michael Mayo, who's amazing. It's called the Oak Bridge Institute. And I was lucky enough to be in a class with him for a year and a half where it was just me and 3 other people, or 4 other people. So I got a lot of attention, and we would do it every week. And I had such a doubt in myself at times, but then I did a reading for somebody, and I told them about their family dinner with their grandfather and their father. I'm sorry, their uncle and the father. And she's like, you just described Sunday dinner at my house when I was younger, like exactly to the T. And I told her what her father looked like and what her uncle was like and their personality. And then and I told Michael, the teacher, I said, I just don't, how do I know this? Like, I don't feel like it could be real. He goes, everybody doubts themselves, and eventually you'll have the confidence. So I've done it myself. I'm actually starting a new class on Sunday with this new guy. I don't know what I want to do with it. I don't want to I don't want to do readings necessarily for people, like be a celebrity psychic or anything, but I like to just be able to understand it more. And that's why I'm doing it. I want to talk about it on my podcast. So.
Interesting. I want to listen to your episodes about it. So super interesting.
So whenever you kind of discovered this about, when your father passed, did it kind of change the journey of the way that you think about grief and loss, though? Did it help?
Oh my God, it helped so much. I mean, it's not perfect. There was a period of time where I definitely thought, like, if I get a certain level of evidence, I won't feel grief anymore. And I was like chasing that level, and it never happened. I mean, you're always going to feel grief, but oh my God, it eased grief. And it added like a serious hope to it. And it just didn't feel so final, and the world just feels less empty. And I don't think I really fear my own death anymore. I definitely feel grief and losing others, and losing other people still really hurts. But I don't fear death at all the way I used to. And everything just doesn't feel so final and so pressured and all of that, if that makes sense.
Oh, I mean, it's exactly how I feel too. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't want to die. And
right.
I think I'm scared of the way I could die. Like, I don't want to die with pain or a long, cancer, and it takes a year to die and all that. That's what I'm scared of about how I will die. But once I die, I'm not scared about the death part. So,
same.
Because I think from what I believe and from what I read and researched and experienced, I think that it's going to be better, unconditional love in a way. And so that's how I see it.
Okay. Yeah. I'm not, same. I don't know if I always hear there's the unconditional love. I question if it's really so perfect, just because nothing really is so perfect, but I think it has a lot of I'm guessing a lot of wonderfulness and beauty and joy. Just like here, it's both. I would guess it's both, but I don't know. So
yeah. And we'll be right back. Okay, and now back to the show. For people who kind of feel overwhelmed by this, or are like, oh, this is so much to take in, how do you kind of guide them?
Like for first steps, I would say for a very first step, it depends how skeptical you are. If you're reasonably skeptical, I think a good place to start, and of course, I'm going to plug my own books and podcasts here.
Yeah, please do. And just so everybody knows, I will put links to Liz's book and her website and podcast in the description of this video or podcast, however you're listening. So you don't have to write them down now. Just go to the description and they'll be there, links for you to go to them. So.
Yeah. Well, and there's others too. I would definitely look at the resources at the Forever Family Foundation where I volunteer. I think another really good starting book is Dr. Julie Beischel on her studies of psychic mediums. I think Leslie Kane has done a really good book. It was made into a Netflix series. Some of the episodes I think are wonderful. The ones on Mediums, I wasn't as big a fan of. I don't think they showed the level of how valid and strong the evidence is, but I think her book, Surviving Death, too. I mean, definitely watch the Netflix series too, because some of it's amazing. But her book also, Surviving Death, is another really good place to start. Yeah, I would just pick one thing and start reading it. And
Yeah.
I think those are some good kind of broad places. It's two other podcasts aside from mine I think are really good are Unraveling the Universe with Ben Sinclair and Seeking Eye with Darren McEnany. Those are there's a lot. The Robert Bigelow contest, Dr. Jeffrey Mishlove, he won the Bigelow Prize for his prize-winning essay, which was like $500,000 prize. He won it about, was it 2 years ago now? And he covers why he thinks there's afterlife evidence. That's actually maybe the number one, aside from my stuff. Of course, can't have to plug myself. But his is a really good one to read too.
Tell me about your books. I want to hear about tell the audience about like what you've done.
Sure. So my two books, I want it to eventually be a trilogy. I have like my outline for book number 3. It's WTF Just Happened, and then A Sciencey Skeptic Investigates Grief, Healing, and Evidence of an Afterlife. And then part 2 of it starts with my experience, like first finding out my dad's sick and he had an unexpected stroke and dealing with my emotions around that and kind of how I just can't believe he's not going to get better, and just the steps after steps of, how I'm like trying to hope he's going to be okay, and it gets into early grief, and then it gets with like my very first step, kind of what I mentioned here, and takes people through all of it from 2015 through like 2018 of the people I meet, the research, the piles of medium readings. And then book 2 starts, I guess, 2018 through like 2021. And then I'm writing, my third book will be 2021 to now. So, and it just takes through like how I went from like thinking there's zero chance of an afterlife to thinking it's highly probable.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And you've learned so much probably since 2021 or 2018 to now, right? I mean, there's just so much to add to a new book.
So much. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just so much. That's what's, I think, makes this so solid. It's so much more keeps happening and keeps happening.
Do you feel like people in the world, though, are like becoming more accepting of this and kind of more open-minded about it, where, I always go back to religion, where I think religion holds people back. And now I feel like people are kind of thinking on their own without religion. I don't know if it's like the new generation where, religion isn't necessarily part of them growing up the way that maybe I was or other people were, but, and you make your own mind up. But I just feel like people are more open to these things now than
I
before.
feel it too. I'm not sure. It's like a little hard to tell if it's because I'm so involved in this world, so I'm meeting more people, or now that I'm talking about it, people who wouldn't have talked about it are starting, will talk about it with me. It seems so. I mean, I do think like with shows like Surviving Death, now so popular on Netflix and so many books, I think so. That's my impression.
Yeah. There's something else I wanted to talk to you about, kind of a different subject, about the Weinstein story. Harvey Weinstein story. Can you tell me a little bit about how you were a part of that? Because that's kind of a big part of what I read about you.
Yeah, that's part of book 2. So I can't get into my friend's story, but I had a friend who'd been my roommate for a summer, and she worked for Harvey Weinstein, and she was unfortunately sexually assaulted by him, and that was part of the trial. And I can't talk about that part, not only ethically, I also can't, talk about the stuff I testified exactly about. But so I testified 3 times, first with the grand jury, which is where it goes through to see if it's going to be accepted to go through main trial, and then twice in 2019, and then again, or was it the start of 2020? I think it was the start of 2020 before COVID. And then and again this summer. And
wow.
what happened was, in the first time, there was this part where my dog Peanut, who's passed away, ended up chasing him, and he was frightened, and it ended up going viral. So it was like everywhere. It was headlines like, Harvey Weinstein was once one of the most powerful men in Hollywood, but he was no match for Peanut the Chihuahua. And it
I
just
love
ended
that.
up going viral. It was hilarious to bring like some, I mean, I think most people have also been in a lot of grief. No, there's nothing like dark humor. And it was
Yeah.
the funniest thing. So like my dog became famous like internationally. It was in like the press in Africa. There was like the syndicated title, like Rough Justice for Harvey Weinstein, spelled RUFF.
Yeah.
And it was kind of hilarious. And I can't lie, like the testifying was kind of really fun. Like I
Oh,
really
really? Yeah.
I get so mad at injustice. So like I kind of ripped his lawyer to shreds the first time and it went viral. And
I
so
love
then the
that.
second time was like tougher and not as snappy. It was like a full day and but it was, it was like a battle of wits all day the second time. And I kind of really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It was very intense. And yeah, I kind of loved it. So
Yeah. Awesome.
yeah.
And then just before we wrap, I wanted you to tell my
Sure.
audience about your podcast. Tell us the name of it and like what you're doing on there. Cause I love talking to a fellow podcaster.
Oh, me too. Sure. It's called WTF Just Happened, all about the afterlife, no woo. And again, I like to take a really grounded approach to this because it seems to be factual. And, if you're dealing with grief, a lot of times and you're scared it's not going to be possible, you want like solid reasons. So I interview
Yeah.
all the people, or as many as I can get on, who changed my mind in the beginning. It's like everything from like psychic mediums, and we'll have like researchers, people from the Division of Perceptual Studies, to near-death experiencers, and just all the people helping add that our consciousness behaves non-locally. So
did you ever get like Dr. Tucker or anybody like that on your show?
I'm stalking Dr. Tucker and trying, but I have gotten people of that, that group that I'm excited about. A lot from DOPS have been on. I've had Dr. Bruce Grayson, who's one of the original near-death experience researchers, who's part of Division of Perceptual Studies, Dr. Kim Penberthy. So I've gotten quite a few of the Division of Perceptual Studies people on, which is super exciting. And it'd be kind of a dream to get Dr. Jim Tucker, because he was the first one that helped change my mind.
Yeah. Isn't it funny how we all have our like wish list of who we can get guests? And I mean,
yeah,
I have my wish list too, and I'll DM them to death. And finally, two people, I have gotten 2 out of the top 10 of people that have responded.
Which ones? Can you say? I'm curious.
Well, yeah, I can tell you one. There, it's nothing to do with this. It just.
Okay.
It's John Hill is one. He's part of radio. He's part of Andy Cohen's world.
Okay.
He's a gay guy that does a radio show with him. He's his best friend. They dated. I just love his Instagram and who he is, and I've been following him for years. And I like sent him a DM, like, I would love to have you in my show. And he kind of took a few weeks, and I think I probably DM'd him a few times, and finally he wrote back, and I did the interview with him, and he was so nice and so authentic, and it just like. I loved interviewing him and stuff. So, and yeah, I don't know. You just got to keep going for it, I guess, to find
you do
until they say yes. Eventually, they will.
I hope so. Yeah, I think they do. Yeah, I'm stalking Jim Tucker. I'm stalking Dean Radin. There's a few I'm stalking a little.
Yeah,
so
yeah, I'm with you. I wanted to ask you one more question that's kind of a little out there, but. If your dad could hear this episode right now, what would you want to say to him?
Ooh, give me some message in some way that my mom knows that I don't, so I can get a stronger level of evidence.
Love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. My mom, whenever I tell her about my medium psychic classes that I take, she goes, where's your dad? Where's your dad? Did he say anything? I'm like, Mom, just if he says something or comes through, I'll let you know. But like, I almost can't tell her I'm taking these classes or I'm going to see a medium or a psychic because she wants to know about my dad constantly. So,
yeah. Oh, wow. So your mom's into this.
She's into it. She's never actually talked to a medium or a psychic herself, but she is so into it and she believes it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I've had experiences with my father that since he's died, that it has to be him. Like there's just no way that it could have been anything else or anybody else. So, and I tell her about those, and she just like, well, I want him to come to me, and like, there's a reason why he's not. So just, whenever he's ready or thinks he needs to, I guess he will. So I don't know how it works. So that's the only thing I can tell you.
Yeah, it's hard to know. Sometimes maybe they're coming to us all the time and our brains can't perceive that. There's a lot more research to be done in this.
Yeah. Well, you were a fantastic guest, and I love talking with people that kind of have the same mind frame as I do about this stuff. So just your website, I just want to plug that for you. It's WTFJustHappened.net. Check it out. You can see all of Liz's books. You can find out about her podcast. She has a blog on there. You can contact her. So all this stuff. I'm ordering your books right after the show's over. So I can't wait to get them. I think I want to hear your story, and I'll look for your third book when it comes out. But you've been a fantastic guest, and I thank you so much for being on.
Thank you so much for having me. I so appreciate it.
So if this episode resonates with you and you think it would resonate with somebody else, then please share it and be sure to leave a comment. And don't forget to go listen to Liz's podcast. So thanks everybody for listening, and thanks for being on, Liz.